The protagonist of linguistics, Roland, travels through the Arcane Empire and discovers that language and writing contain the true essence of magic. And Chinese, dragon language, elf language, abyss language can all be transformed into powerful powers. Unlike Zhuyu's previous academic masterpieces, which mostly focus on the development history of science, engineering, and natural sciences, this book tells the story of the journey of a linguist's mystical academic master. Oracle bone script, traditional Chinese characters, simplified Chinese characters, phonetics, grammar, semantic analysis, information theory, natural language processing, neurolinguistics. A series of mystical papers, forging new legends belonging to linguistics. Keywords of the novel. Linguist of Arcane. No pop-ups, complete collection download of Linguist of Arcane TXT, latest chapter reading of Linguist of Arcane. Chapter 1. Crosses through, but the heavenly pit. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 1. Crosses through, but the heavenly pit. In the dimly lit room, Roland woke up feeling cold all over, with stars in her eyes. The thick blood like killing a chicken lingers in the nose, making it nauseating. What's going on? He reached out his blood-stained palm and looked at it, his memories surging, finally realizing what had just happened. I actually traveled through it myself. Traversing into a young man from another world. Fortunately, at a critical moment, the fusion of memories reminded me of a precious scroll beside me that could be used for healing, which brought me back to life and allowed me to survive. Roland worked hard to recall that the young man, also known as Roland, transliterated, was a student of the renowned academic institution of Flandre in the Arcane Empire. More precisely, it should be called a mage apprentice. How could such a young person with a promising future end up in such a mess? Roland suddenly realized that she had fallen into the sinkhole dug by her predecessor. My predecessor was a small-town monk apprentice who only knew how to solve problems and did not understand the true principles of the operation of this society. Approaching graduation, I failed to protect my graduation thesis and was caught by my classmate Ramsey. The predecessor of Silly White Sweet not only did not think it was clever, but also delved into it, thinking that it could inspire each other and strive for excellence. But to his surprise, Ramsey appeared friendly and patient in communication, but turned his head and put the essence of it into his paper, submitting it first. After the predecessor discovered it, he confronted Ramsey and was eventually pushed back by the other party's question, "What evidence do you have?" This kid couldn't bear it for a moment, so he did something foolish and left a mess for himself. This won't work. A good deck of cards, it's completely ruined. Roland frowned incessantly. Due to the poor performance of my predecessor, I am now left with two completely different paths in life. One is to successfully pass the entrance exam for the tower, transfer to become a trainee mage, graduate smoothly after years of study, stay in the tower, and become a true life winner in this era. One way is to return home from school, go back to farming, struggle to survive under heavy taxes, or become a small clerk in the city, work hard all day long, and spend a mediocre and boring life amidst busyness and hardship. No matter what, we can't just do nothing and become autistic in the dormitory. Roland left the dormitory, intending to treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Let's first report to the leaders of the college and give it a try. It's really not possible, think of other ways. Not long after, in the teaching office. Apprentice Roland, I'm very sorry, I think these are just your one-sided words. The senior mage, the head of the teaching department, lifted the golden glasses on the bridge of his nose and looked indifferent at Roland. Moreover, even if what you said is true, I am powerless and even suggest that you give up as soon as possible. Why? Roland's surprise overwhelmed her anger and she couldn't help but ask. Because I am certain that you do not have the wisdom and meticulousness required to become a formal mage. You are just the son of a farmer from a small town, able to attend a renowned imperial university, and have already benefited greatly from arcane reforms. The so-called education, in addition to discovering and cultivating talents, already has the function of elimination. If it were a dark dynasty dominated by wizards, apprentices would still have to fight through life and death to seek promotion opportunities. Losers like you would have already died on the receiving ship. The director of the teaching department spoke in a cold and chilling voice. Roland exclaimed in shock, but now is the age of Arcane, not the age of witchcraft. The director of the education department said calmly, so you should be even more grateful that you have lived in a good era. I understand. Roland's voice was low and deep, like a wounded beast. Outside the teaching office, he looked up at the rising sun outside the window with a tired expression on his face, and exhaled a long, murky breath. Shit. Damn it. To his mother Arcane Empire. To his mother gratitude, to his mother good times. Roland clenched her fists, her knuckles creaked, and deep down she roared wildly. On the spacious campus road, the apprentices hurriedly shuttle between the cafeteria or classrooms, and only the graduates take photos with an alchemy product called a photo-taking machine during their leisure time. These things inevitably evoke some beautiful memories in Roland. Unfortunately, these beauties will soon fade away from oneself. Due to his predecessor's mistake, he will soon drop out of school and fall back to the bottom of the society where his original family resides. Roland counted his existing possessions and found that his predecessor had almost nothing except for a few spell scrolls won in competitions and 2 level 0 spell quotas that apprentices would give. Even the most precious healing scroll was used by myself before. Perhaps the only commendable thing is that I studied diligently, and in 10 years, I have basically mastered all the level 0 spells of various genres. But in the eyes of formal mages, level 0 spells are all tricks, and this level is just a solid foundation like a nerd. My predecessor had a dull and introverted personality, and was also a bit timid. I didn't make any helpful friends in the college, but luckily had a childhood sweetheart who had been a classmate for 10 years. He was a top student in the knighthood major. Roland pondered for a moment and sent her a message with the apprentice badge. Although I understand that the other party is just a student and cannot be of great help, discussing with someone at this time can be considered as a life-saving straw of comfort. Roland, here. Shortly thereafter, the gentle voice caught the attention of Roland, who was lost in thought under the tree. Roland turned her head and saw a muscular figure with long legs, more than 10 steps away. It was Auntie, a childhood sweetheart who had been a classmate for 10 years and had been admitted to the same school all the way. She was dressed in a dazzling silver-white female knight uniform, tightly wrapped in black leather pants, with round and powerful legs. She carried a long sword around her waist, highlighting her tall and upright figure with youthful vitality. However, her face also carried a few indescribable worries due to her predecessor's events. Next to Auntie is her best friend Sania, a foreign beauty with brownish-red skin and fiery hair. She wore a Gothic-style purple-red long dress and a Lani-style large pawn witch hat, with a petite and delicate figure. However, when she saw Roland, she couldn't bear to be angry. She used her small magic wand in her hand to repeatedly beat and say, "You bookworm, how could you do such a foolish thing? You want to ruin your future. Alright, Sania, stop talking about him at this moment, let's help find a solution together." Auntie's chest is as broad as her figure, even with an indescribable melancholy on her face, she is still gentle and generous, accommodating the mistakes of Roland's predecessor. This made Roland's already cold heart feel a slight warmth. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Overview of Oracle Bone Inscription. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Overview of Oracle Bone Inscription. Shortly thereafter, in a CAFA within the Flanders College, 3 people sat opposite each other, discussing all possible remedies under the current system. But the more we discuss, the more tricky it becomes. Because this matter is not so easy to solve. The Arcane Empire of Arcane reveres knowledge and respects all scholars and wise individuals, especially the spellcasters who gain power from it. Mages. This empire is promoting reforms that are related to truth, and all old, obscure, and chaotic knowledge will be replaced by the new era's mysteries. Mages are no longer the ancient wizards of the old era who recited obscure spells and studied magic potions and astrology all day long, nor are they the followers of the fireball Shintoism who only know how to cover fire and bombard, but rather followers of science. The scientific thinking under the name of mysticism has developed into a new standard of truth. They promote modern methods of arcane education, granting corresponding degree-based spell quotas through magical networks, and endowing them with the ability to cast spells. A standard Atrian has been instilled with the ideal of becoming a modern mage, sorcerer, since childhood, and has been taught general knowledge in local Enlightenment elementary schools. After reaching the legal age limit, 8 years old, students will participate in assessments and enter higher education institutions, 6-year junior high schools and 4-year higher schools. They will then be admitted based on merit and enter the Master Tower for further studies. Mage Tower, research topics, arcane achievements, financial wealth, immortality, demonic powers. These are the themes of this era. But not everyone is qualified to be a trendsetter. Many people drop out of school, switch jobs, or inherit their father's business to work and farm due to various reasons halfway through their studies. The entrance exam is the biggest obstacle on their life path. If it's really not possible, why not repeat the exam and try again in a year, suggested Sinia. Adelaide shook her head and said, this will cost at least 1,000 gold coins. Sinia said, I have some money at home. I can lend him a loan, but convincing my parents is not easy, so I can only try my best. Roland said, Sinia, thank you very much for your kindness, but this method is not suitable. Sinia said, what's not suitable? The Empire only provides compulsory education under the normal education system. If you pay for your own education, can you afford it? Those commercial banks and colonial companies cannot invest in you, a penniless small character. What I mean is, if I don't get into the Mage Tower, I may not be able to afford to work hard for a lifetime. Roland remained silent for a moment before firmly refusing. Sinia said angrily, why are you so lacking in ambition? Roland didn't explain, just smiled bitterly and shook his head. Sinia's kindness is good, but she appears too naive. After much thought, Roland said, at this point, we can only try to avoid the previous topic and rewrite the paper. In the eyes of the Arcane Committee, that Ramsay submitted his paper earlier than me, and the process of argumentation was more rigorous and thoughtful than mine. No matter how you look at it, it seems like he is the original, but mine has become plagiarism. The thought of writing the original text forcefully would inevitably lead to Ramsay's downfall, and even falling back to the bottom of society may not guarantee stability. Roland couldn't help but feel a chill in his spine. It's really despicable. Is there no fairness and justice in this world? Sinia gritted her teeth and was even angrier than Roland herself. Is there only one day left until the deadline for submission now? Adelaide interjected and asked, with a clear expression of concern in her eyes. The difficulty of graduation exams is already quite high, and one must deliberately avoid things they are good at and familiar with, which is like dancing with shackles. You have to give it a try whether you have time or not. And I don't have any hope of getting into the Mage Tower now, at least I hope to graduate smoothly without dropping out. Roland pretended to be calm and said calmly. Farewell to Adelaide and her best friend Sinia. Roland did not return to her dormitory. Instead, she went to the library, found a remote corner, and began to conceive her first truly mystical essay after arriving in this world. Writing a paper that can pass the exam within a day is indeed challenging for my predecessor. But fortunately, thanks to her previous education, Roland has a certain degree and understanding of the history of natural science development. She also knows that some fields have given birth to special research techniques called filling domestic gaps. Coincidentally, my previous major was in the Department of Runes, which was strongly related to language, history, and sociology. The title of my previous paper was also a self-created writing style. In other words, our predecessors, along with Ramsay and others, are using their knowledge to try to fabricate a simple language and writing system. Roland may not understand magic, but he is not unfamiliar with it because he comes from a linguistic background and specializes in historical linguistics. In the past life, with the development of Earth information, people in the same profession have become so overwhelmed that they feel embarrassed to speak their own language and meet people. As the ninth art industry, the game industry often requires the participation of linguists, creating various fictional languages and texts. Moreover, as a real world, there are naturally some things that can be introduced to fill the gap in the Arcane. For example, a civilization symbol with thousands of years of historical and cultural heritage that has naturally developed. Chinese character system. With the activation of the level 0 trick copying technique, a floating goose feather pen appears out of nowhere, moving freely and quickly copying. Roland decided to choose the textual system of Oracle Bone script as the theme, focusing on summarizing such a textual system. Oracle Bone script is an ancient Chinese script, also known as Qi script, Oracle Bone inscriptions, Yin Ruin script or Turtle Shell Animal Bone script. It is the earliest mature Chinese character that can be seen in the current academic community. After divination by the royal family in the late Shang dynasty, this type of writing was engraved on turtle shells or animal bones to record events, hence its name. Due to space constraints, Roland focused on describing the functions of its divination system, explaining the document system of its narrative, prescript, destiny script, occupation script, and verification script, laying out the framework, and creating about 100 million basic texts such as heaven, earth, sun, moon, wind, rain, and lightning. It seems that due to his reincarnation through time travel, his spiritual power has been greatly enhanced and his past life memories have become clearer. It is surprisingly easy and simple to replicate based on the impressions in his mind. In just half a day, Roland completed this mystical essay that was enough to determine his future and destiny in this world. In the small teleportation array connected to the magic web in the library, he didn't hesitate to put the paper on it, chose to scan and submit it. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Favor of the Great Mage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Favor of the Great Mage. Sky City Nevis, Mage Council, Arcane Committee. Against a pitch-black background resembling a vast void, billions of radiance are like scattered stars. In the dark, countless formulas, ciphertexts, and spells float up like white letters, transforming into huge shadows and spreading into the deep darkness. One after another, in the form of manuscripts, arcane papers are like meteors shooting deep into the center, a massive light sphere resembling a star. It is grand and magnificent like a deity, but the patterns projected by its light spots seem to be millions of light years wide, filling the sky with endless creations between heaven and earth. But just as Roland's arcane paper was put into it, this magnificent and divine giant light ball suddenly froze for no reason. In an instant, the time of heaven and earth seemed to have gone through thousands of years. In the vast void, a melodious sound resounds among billions of stars. What's wrong? Suddenly, a giant hand was thrown, blocking the sky and sun, as if blocking the entire universe. This universe is actually just a spherical object the size of a human skull, and the light ball floating in the chaos of the void is just a tower spirit the size of a fist. Your Excellency Ovisto, here is a new arcane essay. The little tailing had already read the article thousands of times in an instant, expressing his suggestions in a motionless mechanical voice. You may be interested. Oh. The owner of the voice snapped his fingers with a hint of interest. In an instant, a screen-like light curtain appeared in front of him, followed closely by countless words pouring down like a waterfall. Is it a new type of writing system? It's a bit interesting. Why do all the rune apprentices these days enjoy creating their own languages and scripts? The relaxed voice gradually stopped, as if realizing that things were not simple. Due to the need to resonate with magical powers, the language and writing of a train are naturally suitable for phonetic expression, belonging to a typical phonetic writing system and exhibiting significant inflectional features. A complex magical element often only needs to add affixes, various prepositions, postpositions, attributives, adverbials, and clauses in front of it to express more meanings. If further refinement is needed, singular and plural forms, yin and yang, continuous tense, perfect tense, future tense can be added in terms of high emotional intelligence. This language system is rigorous and standardized, naturally as neat as tying ropes to record events. But this magical language is not flawless either. At least after the development of arcane magic, people have realized its various inconveniences in terms of meaning and textual recording. It is completely unsuitable for writing and recording. Although some minstrels often praise the language of Arcane as beautiful as poetry, it is only beautiful. Even the most conservative and proud people of the Arcane are troubled by their complex and ever-changing tenses and lengthy word combinations, not to mention their dog poop-like grammar system. So far, the eternal script has developed to a dead end, which has led to many high-level mages and high-achieving students in arcane schools often ruthlessly abandoning it and using elf script as a substitute for writing. Even at this moment, Roland's arcane treatises were written using elf documents. This is not only allowed in the Arcane Empire, but even encouraged. It can be said to be a popular trend in the upper-class society. You don't know how to speak elf language or write elf characters, and you're too embarrassed to say you're a wizard master, an upper-class person, but the language and writing of elves are not products of human civilization itself, and even the mage master cannot always use them to teach his descendants and develop his own magic. Therefore, the upper echelons of the Arcane Empire are also eager to try to create some efficient and convenient new types of magical texts. This type of text must be able to carry increasingly complex magical knowledge and arcane principles, becoming a good carrier. Ovisto read carefully with some interest. Teacher Ovisto, you have a new meeting invitation. A man in his 30s, dressed in a gorgeous wizard robe, walked in. Swine, you've come just in time. Take a look at this article. What kind of article is it? The teacher's performance really surprised me, but now I'm just a small evaluation assistant. Is it really appropriate to just look at an apprentice's graduation thesis like this? Of course it's suitable, because I have already decided to admit him to my own mage tower, and there is no trouble with leaking secrets or violating regulations. Ha! Swain's face showed surprise. What he said before was a big surprise, with a hint of teasing, and he didn't take it seriously. But now, I am truly starting to become curious. What kind of paper could have caught the eye of the renowned Archbishop Orvisto, who has always been known for his strictness? The senior mage, who served as the evaluation assistant, smiled and sat down in front of the red cedar table across from him, supporting the golden glasses on the bridge of his nose. Oracle Bone Script. Ha! Seeing Swine's first astonishment and then gradually showing a stunning expression, Ovisto couldn't help but laugh. How's it going? My teacher, are you really sure this is an article that an apprentice can write? Swain raised his head and did not answer his question directly, but he had already expressed his feelings. After taking a few deep breaths, Swain couldn't help but say, I think with the level reflected in this article, it can be considered a capable material no matter what. The teacher's decision to be admitted was wise and wise. However, it may take some effort to ensure the recruitment to our mage tower, how to say it. As a great mage with a high possibility of advancing to the legendary level, every move is eye-catching, and along with the people he cares about, they are also widely popular, which is inevitable. Back then, I was also greatly tempted and almost abducted to another place. Ovisto looked at his proud student and suddenly realized that it was really that. Although he has absolute confidence in his sorcerer tower, he cannot resist the student being limited by experience, knowledge, and not understanding the value of the Ovisto sorcerer tower in the arcane world. He is easily fooled by others using the rankings of the old era and being scammed away by some petty gains. Swain took the initiative to break free and said, the teacher has a deep desire for arcane skills. If you don't have time to pay attention to these trivial tricks, let me, as a student, take over and personally go to Flandre. By the way, do you still have the qualification to grant additional spells? Give him a level 1 spell to try. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Narrow Avenues for Enemies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Narrow Avenues for Enemies. The deadline has finally arrived, and the review will take some time. I don't know what the outcome will be. Inside the Flandre Academy, Roland stood up in a daze, with a hint of confusion about the way ahead. The kind of ambition and confidence that comes with wearing it is not something that people like him should possess, but the systematic review of Oracle Bone inscriptions does have significant value in terms of technology, which may fit the trend of arcane development in this world. Roland is not shooting aimlessly, but consciously carries some hope. Therefore, making oneself anxious about gains and losses, unable to sleep all night. Forget it, let's go have breakfast first. After eating something in the cafeteria, Roland walked on the college street, which had become deserted, thinking about the way ahead. In thought, several classmates walked over from the front, talking and laughing. One of them was Ramsey, who had plagiarized his predecessor's paper. Roland frowned slightly as she saw it. This is really. The enemy's path is narrow. Ramke was discussing something with those classmates, looking excited. Suddenly, he heard one of the classmates say, "Roland, good morning." Roland. Ramsey was slightly surprised and looked over. "You're all so early, what are you talking about?" "You're so happy," Roland said calmly. "You don't know yet, Ramke has been admitted to the Wendy's Mage Tower. He has a bright future ahead of him." "Yes, it's simply delightful and congratulatory." The classmates who were unaware of his grudges with Ramsey explained. Wendy's Mage Tower, which is a ranked middle and lower level mage tower in the arcane world. Upon hearing this, Ramsey's expression was somewhat unnatural. This is probably the so-called guilty conscience, and now he is only a student, unable to resist the ignorant enthusiasm of his classmates. "You guys take a step first. I have something to tell Roland." Ramsey found an excuse to distract other classmates and kept Roland alone. "What's up with you?" Roland's face was calm, walking with him under the tree-lined avenue of the campus, showing no signs of joy or anger. "Roland, I'm sorry, I did apply some of the viewpoints in your paper before." Ramsey showed a guilty expression and apologized to him. "Just used some." Roland sneered. "I admit, I didn't ask you in advance, it was indeed my fault, but I didn't expect you to think I was copying your things." "Enough, Ramsey, are you trying to tell me that you have seamlessly revised it and seamlessly integrated it into your own paper?" Ramke said, "I didn't mean that, I just feel like everyone is classmates after all, and there's no need to make such a scene. Otherwise, I'll compensate you with some money and treat it as a consulting fee, ha ha ha." Roland laughed back angrily. "Ramsey, are you joking or are you intentionally humiliating me?" Ramsey gradually became angry and ashamed when he saw that he didn't respond. "Roland, you are too narrow-minded. Some misunderstandings in the past, isn't it good to just let them go like this?" "Why are you doing this?" Roland said, "I can see through you completely, you hypocrite. You stay and say these inexplicable words just to make your conscience live up to it, and even gain an advantage in morality. Or, are you trying to get rid of this matter and completely erase the old accounts? Everyone has been apprenticed for 10 years, and no one is more foolish than anyone. That's why I want to ask you, why are you doing this? I don't appreciate it." After being retorted by Roland, Ramsey finally completely tore open his face and said coldly, "I was originally sincerely grateful to you and wanted to give you some benefits, but I didn't expect you to think so. You don't have to look in a mirror to see what kind of person you are. The son of a farmer who came out of the small town, even taking the Mage Tower exam has put in a lot of effort. Taking you on a journey of exploration and learning together is something we value. I didn't expect that kindness wouldn't pay off, but instead you took a bite. With a fierce voice and a stern expression, Ramsay quickly caught up with his previous classmates. "What are you talking about? Why are you looking a bit excited?" the classmate said, puzzled. Ramsay remained silent. Suspected of plagiarism was not an honorable thing after all, and he didn't want to make it public. On the other hand, another classmate looked at them like this and said smartly, "Isn't it that guy who envies you for taking the Dias Mage Tower exam? Did he say something bad? That guy is really good. There aren't many people who can get into the Mage Tower, and we didn't get in either. Wait, I suddenly remembered that he doesn't seem to be on the graduation list either. Shouldn't he? He didn't even make it through graduation." "I don't think so." On the spot, someone took out the brief table they had previously copied and checked it, saying, "There really isn't one." Upon hearing these words, Ramsay was first startled, followed by a subtle hint of joy. "Ha ha ha, I see. No wonder he didn't like Ramke anymore, but that guy really came from a small town and didn't have any sense or insight. The more I can't pass the exam, the better I should get along with classmates like Ramsay." "Yeah, everyone, classmates, there's something we need to take care of each other, isn't it just a ready-made network?" Everyone took turns praising Ramsay, making him feel proud and throwing his previous unhappiness into the air. However, it seems that this alone is not enough insurance. If given the opportunity, step him to the bottom of the mud. Ramsay vaguely felt the last thorn stuck in his heart, thinking about how to pull it out. After Roland left, she immediately realized that the status gap between herself and Ramsay was widening, and it was even more difficult to find justice. As a modern mage, one should speak with papers, as arcane achievements are the hard currency. Although it was only a short time since he came to this Arcane, he has completely understood this truth. With some hope in mind, Roland went to the magic web terminal of the library to check the admission situation. The result was disappointing and there was still no news. Is this okay or not? The essence of a person is the sum of all social relationships. Setting aside one's own ethnicity, class, and position, a person will no longer be human. To put it bluntly, if one replaces their predecessor's identity, they will be limited by his class, position, interpersonal relationships, and all other factors. And just as Roland finished thinking about this lofty thing, she instantly switched back to life mode. With various family backgrounds, economic conditions, and social connections from their predecessors. If you can't get into the Mage Tower, it will be really troublesome. Do we need to find a part-time job to earn some money or something? In a while, the college will begin to expel graduates and no longer provide free accommodation and meals. We can still rely on each other for an extra day now, but sooner or later, we will leave with all our belongings. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Good news brought by Swine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Good news brought by Swine. Amidst countless hardships, it was a week later. As the graduation season begins, the evaluation and admission are already proceeding simultaneously. As of the deadline, there are reports of graduates being recruited by various mage towers in the inland of Flanders College, successfully obtaining the status of apprentice mages. At this moment, Roland had already started working part-time at a restaurant near Flanders College. This place is not where the people of Zyalaba consume, but compared to the Ivory Tower, it is undoubtedly filled with vulgarity and a miasma of smoke. Atari and Sania finally managed to gather information. When they approached, Roland was hanging his usual apprentice robe at the door, changing into a coarse cloth short shirt, and clumsily brushing dishes in the kitchen. I don't know if it was sweat or dishwashing water that wet his collar. "Roland, why did you come here?" Adelaide and Sania let out a cry of concern, frowning and looking around. This place is surrounded by dirt and filth, filled with the unpleasant smell of oil fumes, stains, and various food residues, with sewage flowing everywhere. On the big table, dishes and cutlery piled up into a tall hill, and Adelaide even frowned as she saw cockroaches crawling through the crevices. "Isn't it just to earn some extra income? If I really drop out of school, at least I'll have to pay for my way home. Roland wiped her hands and paused, pretending to be relaxed. I used to think you were reading foolishly, but I didn't expect you to be quite clear-headed, Sinia said unexpectedly. We were afraid that you would give up on yourself and even do something foolish for a moment. Sinia. Adelaide complained as she tugged at her hem and solemnly said to Roland, Roland, at least you're also a 10th-year apprentice at the Flanders College, so there's no need for that. Is it a 10th grade apprentice? Roland pondered, this is the ladder we cannot get down from, and the robe we cannot take off. Please forgive me for being blunt. I am now listening to the sound of silver coins jingling bells, but I find it much more beautiful than those magical spells. Adelaide twisted her fingers, looking helpless, suddenly turned around and walked away. Hey! Adelaide, where are you going? Sinia quickly chased after her, not forgetting to turn around, waved her wand, and waved her teeth and claws, saying, You're really annoying. Oh, Adelaide, wait for me. Roland shook her head, gave a self-deprecating smile, and continued to brush the dishes. But unexpectedly, someone pushed the door open and walked in. Roland lifted her head and couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Boss, why did you come? Roland, a wizard wants to see you. Change your clothes and come out quickly, the restaurant owner said solemnly. Roland stood up with a hint of doubt, but before he could wipe his hands, he saw a wizard dressed in a gorgeous wizard robe, wearing golden glasses, and appearing polite walk in, holding a magic wand in the shape of a civilized stick. With a soft thud, the golden shell wrapped around the cane head pillar lay on the bricks and stones with sewage flowing horizontally, making people feel heartbroken. The mage, however, was indifferent and nodded slightly to Roland, showing a smile. Adelaide. Whoa. Whoa. Really, what are you doing running back to the dormitory without saying a word? Sinia, why did you come with us? Let's go back. Go back. Go back where? Of course I'm looking for Roland, I'll just come back and get a money bag. Oh my goodness. Sinia was speechless to the heavens, but still had to follow her best friend to the restaurant. Finally arrived at the place, only to discover that Roland had disappeared without a trace. Where did that guy go? Sinia's teeth were itchy as she waved her delicate wand and gasped for breath, saying, It's really infuriating for me to make such a trip in vain. And Adelaide, you really are. Why are you going back to the dormitory to get money for? Do you want to support that guy? Adelaide glanced at her and said, You've been overthinking it. I just feel that it's not appropriate for him to waste his time and energy in the restaurant and want to support him through these difficult days. Sinia said, He has already given up on himself and gone to work. Why bother talking about whether it's suitable or not? Hey, don't run so fast, wait for me. Behind the college, by the riverbank. Roland and Swine walked along with confusion. Your Excellency Swine, you're looking for me. I forgot to introduce myself. I am the assistant reviewer of the Arcane Committee, commonly known as the alternate reviewer, a high-level arcane, an 8th level mage, and Lord Tanit. Every time the other party claimed a title, Roland's heart trembled violently. This is a truly powerful figure in the Arcane Empire, something ordinary people need to look up to. Even higher, there are only those members of the Mage Council who truly rule the entire empire, the owners of each Mage Tower, the Grand Mage, and the Legendary Mage. Roland immediately made a judgment that even compared to the dean and teaching director of his own college, this Swine Mage was not inferior, and even more valuable due to his status as a candidate reviewer. Wait, why do people like this come to find themselves? Can you say? Roland's heart suddenly throbbed uncontrollably, with a kind of ecstasy about to burst out. But at the same time, I'm afraid it's just imagination, which will bring endless disappointment. Swine smiled and said, I came here specifically. Congratulations on being admitted to our Ovisto Master Tower. He didn't play any tricks and quickly told Roland the cause and effect of this matter, saying, I'm sorry for temporarily blocking your grades, but this is also for better admission. As compensation, we will use special authorization to apply for an additional spell quota for you. The Ovisto Mage Tower is my teacher, founded by His Excellency the Archbishop Ovisto himself. It specializes in recruiting and training mages in rune and language-related fields, and conducting corresponding arcane research. Roland was no longer interested in listening to his introduction, so she quickly took out her apprentice badge and connected it to the magic web to check her admission information. The person in front of me may be a daring scammer, but there is no way to tamper with the magic web. Sure enough, with the arrival of Swine, the news of being admitted to the Ovisto Tower was vividly visible. All previously unavailable information has been made public. He looked at it a few times again with a hint of disbelief. This feeling is like worrying about not being able to finish high school the day before, and in the blink of an eye, the special admission notice from a top university hits your face. Life is really full of ups and downs. After the initial surprise, Roland quickly realized something even more important. This road, there's a play. He originally only regarded the dead horse as a living horse doctor and used his familiar knowledge of his past life to submit articles, but he did not expect to achieve great success. What kind of golden finger is this? It's clearly a gold mine. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Impossible, absolutely impossible. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Impossible, absolutely impossible. After a simple yet solemn interview exchange, Swine left satisfied with the special recruitment terms signed by Roland on the spot. Perhaps noticing Roland's current predicament, he even left a small bag of gold coins as a personal gift. Roland put away the bag and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. A high-level mage, surprisingly, is also so meticulous, considerate, and friendly. This is really it's completely different from my past imagination. Just then, Roland caught a glimpse of the two women rushing over. Adelie was still wearing her dazzling silver-white knightly uniform, tightly wrapped in leather pants, with a front and back curve. My best friend Senia even took off her frequently worn witch hat, with hot sweat oozing from her forehead and her fiery red hair flying in the air. From afar, she waved her teeth and claws and said, "You bookworm, why are you here? The riverbank is not a good place, especially Roland's current situation is worrying." Roland was slightly stunned and said, "Adelie, Senia, why did you come?" Senia snorted and said, "Of course I'm here to find you, you guy. He ran away without saying a word and told us to look everywhere." Roland smiled and said, "Let's not worry about that for now. I have some good news to tell you." "What good news?" "I have been admitted to the Tower of Augustus." "What?" Senia couldn't believe it. "It's already this time. You still have the heart to joke. You're not going crazy about wanting to be admitted, are you?" "Roland, is this true? Are you really admitted?" Adelie had a different reaction. Zinnia said, "Adelie, how can you believe what he said? This guy is boastful and doesn't make any drafts. That Mage Tower is a top-notch institution founded under the name of Your Excellency the Grand Mage Ovisto. Although it hasn't been established for too long, it has won multiple important awards in the arcane world and is among the top tier. It can almost be said to be the best mage tower of the rune school. Besides, if you were really admitted to the Ovisto Tower, news would probably have been flying around long ago. How could there be no movement? Are all the people in the other towers blind?" Atari realized it later and couldn't help but show a worried expression. The meaning behind Senia's words is impossible, absolutely impossible. Why did Roland say that? Clearly, the pressure is immense and there are already signs of hallucinations. When a person's desires are too strong, they may not be able to withstand them, leading to schizophrenia, breakdown, and various pathological changes. Roland said helplessly, "Why don't you believe it? All right, wake me up a bit." Senia stepped forward and snatched the money bag tightly held by Adelie, stuffing it into Roland's hand. "In 2 days, we will welcome the farewell party for the apprentices who have graduated and left school. Students who have not left school early will attend. This time everyone is going their separate ways, and there is a possibility that they may never have the chance to meet again in their lifetime. We need to say goodbye well. During this period, stop running to work and rest well. These are. Roland was a bit confused. This is the support from Auntie for you. I just put some of my own pocket money in, although it's not much, it's definitely enough for your travel expenses and living expenses in recent days. After speaking, regardless of the other party's reaction, he quickly left with Auntie. Hey, don't leave. I have money on my own and don't need this. Roland hesitated for a while before realizing it and quickly chased after him. Ha! Ha! I was right about that. A modern gentleman should learn to willingly accept gifts from ladies. That guy is full of traditional dross and feels embarrassed quickly finding a place to hide. Watching Roland chase towards the distance, Sania finally walked out of the nearby corner with Auntie, panting heavily. Until now, Auntie's face was still full of worries, wanting to say something, but for a moment she didn't know how to start. On the other side, Roland couldn't find the two women and guessed that they were deliberately avoiding each other, so she could only smile helplessly. I've said I don't need it anymore, why don't I believe it? Perhaps this matter is a bit unbelievable. Even myself, at the beginning, almost thought I had been cheated by magic. But on second thought, it will be the farewell party for the apprentices after graduation in 2 days. Sania and Auntie should both attend, and they can explain it later. All these twists and turns have delayed a lot of time, so Roland decided to rush back to his place of work and prepare to finish the dishes he left behind before. Take this opportunity to make an agreement with the boss not to come again in the next 2 days. After dealing with the situation here, he can completely end his life in the Flandrel Academy and embark on a new journey towards the Orvisto Mage Tower. What Roland didn't notice was that in the dark corner, a pair of eyes were watching him until he walked into the kitchen, changed into coarse cloth clothes, and finally walked out, with a face full of suspicion and shock. Roland, how could he have fallen to this point? That is an ordinary graduate whom Roland and Ramsey both know. Thinking of the minor conflict between Ramsey and Roland, he quickly took out his apprentice badge and sent a message inside. Ramsey, come and take a look. Roland, that guy, willingly fell for it and went to the restaurant behind the college to wash dishes. In no time, Ramsey's reply came. Don't disturb him yet. Quickly take a few photos and show them to me. It seems that Ramsey is extremely interested in this from the text. He had been thinking before about how to step Roland into the mud. At present, campus disputes cannot be considered as buying murder or more intense means, and if we really do that, the ugly things that would not have been exposed will become more risky to expose. But his classmates' unexpected discovery led him to have some sinister ideas of killing without seeing blood. That's social death. In places like the Arcane Empire, reputation and credibility are still very important. High-end struggles are often so simple and unadorned. Unconsciously, 2 days have passed and the end of the Qing school and farewell party have arrived. In the office of the Education Office, a group of administrative personnel are conducting the final statistics on recruitment. Although the whereabouts of many people have been gradually clarified in previous days, there are also special exceptions. For example, sir, there is an apprentice here who has been recruited by the Orvisto Tower. What? The Tower of Augustus. The advanced mage, the head of the teaching department, came to the small teleportation array with some surprise and looked at the letter passed by the magic web. As expected, it bears the mark of the Tower of Orvisto. Special recruitment. Roland. Suddenly, the director of the teaching department was stunned. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Evening Party. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Evening Party. That night, as the lanterns lit up, the former college auditorium was decorated in a classical yet luxurious way. A huge crystal chandelier hangs above the hall, with many tables, chairs, cups, windowsills, and glass shining brightly under the magical light. In the venue of the evening party, from the gemstones embedded in ribbons, to the exquisite patterned tableware, to the polite attendants, maids, to the magical candles and rune symbols, all reveal exquisite craftsmanship. Like the faint light of clouds and mist, it floats in the spacious space accompanied by gentle music like the wind. That is a special effect transformed from the technique of brightness. The bright red carpet covers the long road, like a ladder of 10 years of cold windows, step by step leading people into the places of luxury and elegance. The Arcane Empire of Arcane reveres knowledge and respects all scholars and wise people, especially the mages who gain power from it. Flandrel Academy is one of the places where mages are trained as apprentices, and the students it provides will become mages in the future. So, the Empire provided favorable conditions for these future ruling classes. Everything here makes people feel that 10 years of hard study without anyone asking is worth it. Students dressed in apprenticeship robes and badges of mages rushed in, searching in groups of 3 or 5 for objects to reminisce about and say goodbye. Roland came alone, not casually carrying a glass and chatting about old times, but first found the traces of Atari and Senia. Suddenly, the laughter of others echoed nearby. "Oh, isn't this Roland? I haven't seen you for a few days, why is it so late? What are you looking around for? Do you have any plates to brush?" Someone answered, "A few people, what's the joke about plates? Did I just go out to play for a few days and come back behind the times?" "Yeah, explain it. You don't know, Roland has been so down and out lately that he went to the restaurant to wash dishes. What a shame he has brought to our Flandrel Academy." "That's right, even if it's a graduation party, it's nice for an underachieving student to come and attend. You don't understand. You can eat and drink here, and it's also his last opportunity to enter the upper class. After he finishes, he can stay to wash dishes and earn wages. What a shrewd guy he is. What? Dropping out of school? Working? Isn't it too lowly?" The classmates were somewhat shocked. Flandrel College is a true ivory tower. Apprentices who can be admitted have no worries about food and clothing all day long, enjoying the imperial government subsidies and the careful cultivation of high-quality teachers. After successfully graduating, achieving a true class leap, one becomes a noble mage master. Even if one fails to pass the Master Tower exam and successfully graduates, it is easy to find a satisfactory and good job with the education of a 10th grade apprentice, and continue to maintain a standard of living above that of a moderately prosperous citizen. Although I have long heard that Roland is the son of a farmer from a small town, he shouldn't have fallen to the point where he has to rely on physical labor to earn money, right? But according to their statement, it doesn't seem to be false either. Some people involuntarily take a few steps to distance themselves. There were also those who didn't think much of Roland before, suddenly felt that the other person's face was detestable, and couldn't help but show a look of disdain. As a successful candidate who was admitted to the Wendy's Mage Tower, Ramsay did not personally come forward to mock, after all, it was too shallow to do so. But he stood on the side, holding his glass and admiring it with a smile on his face, feeling incredibly proud inside. These fox friends and dog friends were naturally arranged by him. This is not just about causing trouble, but about consciously suppressing Roland and belittling his image and reputation. A vulgar, failed dropout who has fallen into the trap of working in a restaurant, clamoring that a noble and successful person has plagiarized his thesis. Who would believe it? More people will only think that it is a despicable and unjustified smear. It is a revenge that turns from embarrassment to anger after being exposed. Even through this incident, Roland was angered, allowing him to expose the matter without sufficient evidence, which inevitably led to failure. That way, it will be difficult to have any follow-up. "Ramsay, as I said, everyone is a 10th grade apprentice. Do you really think playing with these tricks is useful? Do you think if you step on me in the mud and plagiarize my paper, it will forever go unnoticed?" Roland snorted coldly and sneered. "Plagiarism? What's going on? Everyone was in an uproar. Upon hearing Roland's words, Ramsay was not surprised but delighted. I was deceived. This kid really didn't calm down and told this matter in public. This idiot. Ramsay never intended to block Roland's mouth from beginning to end, and it was impossible for him to do so. But the problem is, some things need to be believed when spoken out. The current situation is clearly that an underachieving student who can't even pass the entrance exam for a low-level mage tower. No, he can't even graduate normally, and he is infuriated and splashing dirty water. Who would believe it? As expected, the reactions of other classmates were exactly the same as Ramsay's expectations. Most of them feel that Roland is too excessive and unwise. To the point of dropping out of school, not reflecting well, but instead slandering others. Is this useful? Some students think of something and get even further away. If academic workload is too heavy, it is possible for some people to experience excessive stress and mental illness. Don't say anything about plagiarism or not, it's not surprising to just shout that someone is going to kill him with a knife. This is called delusional victimization. In places like the Arcane Empire, where there is severe internal competition, there are many cases of this kind. Roland, speaking, is responsible. This is just a scene for our classmates. If it were outside, it would be a very serious crime for ordinary people to slander master. Yeah, Roland, you're also an adult now. You can't play around with your temper like a child. To be fair, Roland, you're going too far. Several classmates looked at Roland seriously. Ramsay's eyes flickered as he pondered what to do next. Should we take advantage of this opportunity to beat Roland to death with a single blow, or should we slow down a bit to avoid him jumping over the wall and then slowly find opportunities to clean up later? After looking at his classmates around him, he gradually came up with a good idea. Roland, you haven't been able to pass the exam recently and you're in a bad mood. I can understand that this time, just treat it as your unintentional mistake. Ramsay shook his head and said with a tolerant and magnanimous expression. I won't argue with you. Just apologize to me and let it go. As expected, his performance won unanimous praise and respect from his classmates. Take a look. They all come from the same school and class, why is their character so different? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Dean's Arrival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Dean's Arrival. Ramsay, your actions may not necessarily be good for him, but rather condone his repeated mistakes. Just as the atmosphere eased slightly, a classmate stood up and said. Someone was right earlier, the reputation and dignity of a mage are inviolable. According to imperial law, defaming registered mages can result in a sentence of 3 years to life imprisonment, with the highest penalty even reaching cremation. Some wizards who practice witchcraft or ancient black magic may even do it themselves, and by then, even death can be considered a liberation. In my opinion, being poor gives birth to schemes, while being rich gives birth to conscience. Such a commoner's son from a small town must be taught a lesson to learn honesty. The crowd was shocked when they heard this. Perhaps this person makes sense. If Roland is not taught a lesson, he may not really know what disaster comes from the mouth. Upon hearing these words, Roland felt no waves in her heart, even wanting to laugh. Ramsay and a few fox friends were so careful that he couldn't see it himself. These are just apprentices who grew up in the enclosed environment of the ivory tower, and they also belong to the flowers in the greenhouse. Even if it's bad, it's really a bit innocent and cute. However, some words are also in line with the reality of the Arcane Empire. With graduation, everyone gradually drifts away, and by the time they reunite, they may already be of different classes. I really don't know if I will have the opportunity to be together as a classmate like I am now. Even such children, with the help of class power, can easily make their previous selves helpless and anxious. This gave Roland a profound experience of the social class of the Arcane Empire, and he also became more clear about his future path. Enter the tower, become a wizard, and use the achievements of arcane magic as the foundation of your foothold in this world. To clarify this point, Roland lacks even the interest to retort. He put his hands in his pockets and watched them perform quietly, as if appreciating monkey opera. What are you talking nonsense about? Stop talking nonsense. At this moment, Sinia's angry voice echoed behind the crowd. Immediately, Adelais separated from the crowd and walked out firmly, silently protecting Roland. Faced with her fellow mage students, she had a knightly apprenticeship background and did not hesitate. Sinia followed over, with her hands on her hips and her firepower fully engaged. 1 or 2, it's not a big deal to watch the excitement, is it? It's also grand and doesn't matter whether you teach or not. You're not Roland's parents, so you have to take care of so much. So many people, just catch him and bully him, right? Ramsay suddenly became extremely embarrassed, while secretly harboring resentment. Roland, what kind of luck did he have? Even now, there is still someone to speak for him. This prolonged stalemate is not a solution, it's time to give him a hard time. He had actually envisioned a gradual and deadly attack on Roland's weaknesses. For example, economic means. Find some classmates to provoke him, and during the argument, accidentally break the precious porcelain and decorations used in the party. A huge debt can crush this kid to death. He has been exposed to many methods of fabricating disobedient employees. For example, taking advantage of someone else's weakness in having to support their family and forcing them to work overtime. For example, stirring up internal competition and desperately eliminating each other. Essentially, they involve time and energy, suppressing them into obedient puppets. No time and energy to think, no time and energy to learn, no time and energy to grow, and the economy, on the other hand, is the fundamental key to social rules, capable of crushing a person to eternal destruction. Although he had never heard of the saying, "One penny can't defeat a hero," he also understood this truth. The son of a farmer from a small town has a shallow foundation, and his biggest weakness is that he has no money. Spending some pocket money can add insult to injury to his already affluent family. Why fight against him? Even if the operation is good, there is no need to take out a copper plate, and the blame lies entirely on him. The dean is here. Suddenly, there was silence ahead. Originally, it was the dean of Flanders College who arrived. A train has entrusted the best resources and excellent teaching staff to the future flowers of the empire. There is no need to mention the great mages that can be encountered after entering the tower. Even the high-level mages at the high school, junior high school, and dean level are also some high-level mages, and the level of arcane spells is also at a high level. When the dean of the college and the director of the teaching department led a group of followers into the banquet hall, everyone involuntarily stood in awe and straightened their bodies. The dean and senior management of the college were all dressed in classical wizard robes, with expensive fabrics paired with exquisite and complex magical runes, highlighting the nobility and literary quality unique to wizards. Behind them were a group of mage guards and attendants dressed in light armor and with neat appearances, all wielding swords and staff, exuding extraordinary power. A big man should be like that. Roland had been thinking about her future in life before, and seeing this scene, she couldn't help but secretly sigh. Nobles are not necessarily mages, but mages are naturally nobles. Especially in places like the Arcane Empire of Arcane, becoming a mage means many privileges, which is also why before Ramsay was admitted to the Windy's Mage Tower, so many people praised him for his stinky feet. Even low-level mages are still mages and belong to the ruling class of the empire. That kind of future is completely foreseeable. Suddenly, someone leaned over and said something in the dean's ear, pointing towards this side. The dean then walked over with a step. Ramsay and others were slightly stunned, lacking autonomy, and straightened their waists, eager to attract the attention of the dean and the director of the education department. As they looked towards this side and even began to take steps, Ramsay's mood instantly surged, thinking that the other party somehow noticed him. However, He soon realized that the goal of the dean and the senior management of the college was Roland. Amidst the shocked, puzzled, or confused gazes of the crowd, the dean separated and took 3 steps, 2 steps in front of Roland. He tightly grasped Roland's hand, warm and friendly, and smiled, saying, "Oh my, Roland, you really bring glory to our school." He patted Roland's shoulder vigorously, looking excited. After the dean, the director of the education department also walked over. In the shock of everyone on site, including Ramsey, Adelaide, and Sania, the teaching director reached out and shook hands with Roland. Then there were several high-level wizards from the Flandrel Academy, one by one, all of whom were high-ranking mages. A train, who could be considered a member of the upper class, also came forward to shake hands with them and pay their respects. What's going on here? Ramsey and his classmates were like in a dream, deeply feeling unbelievable. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Settlement and Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Settlement and Separation. Classmates and friends, on this occasion of graduation, I sincerely extend my greetings to you. Today is a sad day of departure, but at the same time, it is also a day for you to set sail and head towards a bright future. Here, I have a great news to share with all my classmates. I am Roland, a graduate of Flanders College, and I have been admitted to the special recruitment of Master Ovisto. The Ovisto Master Tower is one of the top rune school master towers in recent years. While you may have heard of its name, you are not yet familiar with it. To be precise, Roland has set a new record and became the first student in our college to be admitted to this wizard tower. Congratulations to him. The dean arrived at the center of the evening party and, surrounded by everyone, gave a brief yet passionate speech, while proudly announcing a new record for the college. Flandrel College can be considered a well-known institution within the empire, but it is not guaranteed that someone will be admitted to the top tier every year. This is because the empire did a good job in popularizing education, and no well-known institution could have absolute strength that is unparalleled. The strength of each institution is very average. In this way, competition remains deadlocked, and each weak advantage may determine the ranking order. It is fortunate that someone in their own college has created a record, which is a good thing. The crowd was shocked, bewildered, and at a loss. After a while, the applause gradually thundered and cheered. The dean pressed his hand and gave a glance to the director of the teaching department, continuing to announce the admission status of other students. The director of the education department took the opportunity to pull Roland aside. "Roland, I'm very sorry for taking up your time. You reported Ramsey's plagiarism under your real name. Based on our investigation, we have preliminary results, but there are still some details that need to be verified by you personally to determine the nature of the matter." Nature. Roland pondered for a moment when he heard a rough Ramsey shouting incredulously beside him. "What are you talking nonsense about? I clearly..." "Shut up, there's no room for you to speak here." The director of the education department's eyes were sharp. Without waiting for his command, 2 attendants walked out, using a silent spell to control Ramsey and dragging him out. The students who noticed this scene opened their mouths wide, as if they could stuff duck eggs. Those who had stood on Ramsey's side before, speaking for him, were all trembling with fear, as if they had fallen into apocalypse. After all, this concerns the reputation of our institution, so let Ramsey drop out of school due to illness and voluntarily give up admission as compensation. The director of the teaching office was too lazy to pay attention to them and whispered something in Roland's ear. Then, without any hesitation, he stuffed a magic crystal card into his hand. Roland pondered for a moment and suddenly laughed. "I had no intention of making a big fuss, but I didn't expect Your Excellency to take the trouble. However, theoretically speaking, this level of cheating would result in dropping out of school." The director of the education department decisively agreed, "The situation has spread and the impact is not very good. Let's find other reasons to dismiss." On the side of Wendy's Mage Tower. We will be responsible for communication, you don't have to worry. Just now, I insulted my classmate. Strictly follow the rules and regulations for punishment. That's no other problem, Roland sighed sincerely. Director, you are really fair and just. Roland, did he get into the top class? The Tower of Orvisto, is it really fake? Is there any falsehood in the announcement made by the dean himself? This is definitely explosive news for the graduating class. First, the person in the same class who knew Roland caused a sensation, followed closely by the other classes who also found out, and then almost all of their peers, regardless of their majors. However, before those unrelated people could come over to make friends and gather information, Roland had already left early and disappeared without a trace. He strolled along the tree-lined avenue on campus with Atari and Sania, discussing their parting. Where did you go during the day? Adelaide was a bit hesitant, wanting to say something goodbye to Roland, but for a moment she didn't know where to start. During the day, I went outside to send money home. Adelaide, Sania, thank you very much for your help. If there is a chance in the future, I will repay you well. In theory, admitted students have at least 1 month to return home in glory before reporting to the Mage Tower. But Roland didn't figure out how to face her predecessor's parents and family for a while, so she decided not to go back. Roland, you heartless person, you didn't tell us even if you got into the Orvisto Tower, which made us worry for nothing. When it comes to help, Sania is already cursing away with great enthusiasm. Roland was extremely aggrieved. Didn't I tell you earlier? Have you ever said it? I don't care, I just haven't said it anyway. Adelaide ignored Sania's incestuous behavior and asked, what the hell is going on? I still feel a bit unbelievable, I didn't expect you to be able to get into the super first class Mage Tower. Roland shrugged and said, I don't know either, so I casually rewrote an article and was accepted by the great mage. Damn it, he installed it. Sania snorted, her heart also filled with shock and confusion. She doesn't believe that such things can be done casually. I must have been confident, but I was surprised and worried for nothing. After thinking for a moment, she carefully analyzed and said, it should be you who performed exceptionally well, showing a far superior level, and happened to be noticed by the Archmage of Orvisto. I really don't know what luck you've had, kid. Roland listened to Sania's analysis and partially agreed. Indeed, that Archmage Orvisto has a keen eye for talent, and can be considered my benefactor. His phrase, bowl, is spoken in the Atrian language, which also has similar vocabulary and expressions. Sania said, the Orvisto Rune School is a newly emerging school of thought that has only emerged in recent years. The Grand Master himself is a master-level figure in the Rune School and also a contemporary superstar with the potential to be promoted to legend. His future is limitless. If you vote under his leadership, your future can also be considered bright. But I'm not bad either. I've been admitted to Ellenborough. If you have time, come find me there to play this time. It was Adelaide's turn to pale. I can't compare to your mage apprentices who have a bright future. Knight apprentices like us, if we're lucky, can still join the Imperial Knights or be employed by a certain mage tower as a mage guard in the future. If we're unlucky, we can only retire and become adventurers. Roland comforted, although knightly professions may not be as good as mages, in terms of personal development, each has its own victories. If given the opportunity, let's see if we can come to the Orvisto Mage's Tower so that we can take care of each other. Adelaide forced a smile and said, I will work hard. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Auntie Loli with Double Horse Tail. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Auntie Loli with Double Horse Tail. Roland noticed Adelaide's forced smile. In fact, the two of them have known each other since childhood and have been studying together for many years. If they have no affection at all, it is a lie. But it is far from enough to say a vow of loyalty. The emotions of adolescence are so hazy and beautiful that they often end up without progress upon graduation. This kind of thing about where to go belongs to a major decision in life, and it is impossible to consider it clearly in a short period of time. Moreover, Roland now is no longer the Roland of the past. So, after much communication with Adelie and Senia, and the opportunity to reunite in the future, he parted ways with them at the school gate, dressed lightly, and embarked on a journey overnight. The teleportation array leading to the Tower of Augustus is located in the city where Flandrel Academy is located. The precious free teleportation opportunity was also kindly applied for by Swine before. You don't need to worry about all the procedures yourself. Before stepping onto the teleportation array, Roland turned around and glanced at the city in her memory, nodding silently. My predecessor is already dead, there is something burning paper. If there is fate in the future, goodbye will also be me, Roland. I cannot be limited to my predecessor, I want to live a brand new life. So, goodbye like this. Frando. Like a faint light casting down from the distant sky in the darkness of night. Stars dot the sky, and the vast expanse presents itself like a projection of the universe. Unconsciously, the scene before us became increasingly profound. Roland seemed to have an illusion that she was drifting and wandering in the universe. But soon after, there was a bright light coming from ahead, and everything floated like lanterns, with a mirage-like illusion. That is exactly the location of the Ovisto Tower, located on a large territory on the southeastern border of the empire. After a moment, a spinning sensation followed, and when Roland regained his senses, he found himself standing inside a magnificent building. Welcome to the Ovisto Tower. Please pack your luggage and follow the instructions to leave the teleportation array. The exit is directly ahead, at the green secret law mark. A mechanically synthesized sound with a metallic texture came over, and it was Tailing's artificial intelligence reminding him. Roland didn't bring any luggage, so she walked down the teleportation array and found the exit, heading towards the floating ladder outside. After exiting the hanging ladder, we arrived at the lobby on the first floor, where many people were coming and going. These are not personnel belonging to the Mage Tower, they are all wandering mages or adventurers who rely on this Mage Tower for survival and development. Roland made some identification and found the reception room exclusively for internal members. The reception room window was bright and tidy, and there stood a beautiful receptionist at the front desk, but not a human, but a doll lady made of alchemy. It has a lifelike appearance, with only a keyhole-like mark on its forehead. Seeing Roland arrive, the doll lady smiled and said in a sweet voice, "Hello, may I help you? I am a trainee mage under this tower and would like to register. Please wait a moment, we will now check your registration information." "Hello, Mr. Roland, we have found relevant information and are allowed to report. Now we will connect you to the tower spirit. With the development of the times, mages can not only use magic networks to store spell quotas, but also transmit information. This is somewhat reminiscent of the information age, but with greater regional development disparities and more uneven levels of economy, culture, and magic. This place is already floating in the sky, and that place is still acting like a monkey on a tree. As for its predecessor's hometown, it was a mountain nest under the rule of a feudal lord." As Roland sighed, Miss Dahl continued, "Your information has been registered. We will now contact the new student in charge for you. Please wait a moment." Roland waited for a while before seeing a light curtain emerging in front of her, which was a screen-casting technique performed using the spirit of the tower as a medium. Why did this year's freshman report so quickly and choose such a late time? Let me see. Across the screen is a cute and adorable pair of ponytailed Loli wearing glasses. After reading Roland's basic information, she pushed her glasses and smiled with an inexplicable evil charm. The next moment, the light curtain disappears and the glasses lady appears. She unexpectedly teleported directly with a level 2 spell dimension jump. The glasses lady still maintained a handsome gesture of pushing her glasses, with the lenses shining on the magic lamp, as if a glimmer of light appeared in her eyes. "Brother Roland!" the glasses lady exclaimed with full energy. "Here," Roland said with a chill. New students entering the tower need to undergo necessary tests. Now, I, the new student leader Flora, will follow this process for you. Can you call me Sister Flora? Do you understand? Roland is speechless. The other person looks like they are only in their early 70s or 80s. They are really the senior sisters of the Mage Tower, aren't they the daughters of some senior sisters? Can't it be the bear kids from somewhere running out to tease me? Hey, what kind of eyes are you looking at? Flora said discontentedly with her hands on her hips, do you look like you're doubting my senior sister? Roland quickly waved his hand and said, no, no. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Flora scolded her arrogantly, in the world of a mage, judging people by their appearance is foolish. My actual age. Humph, it's a secret, but I'm already an adult, it's just because of some reasons that I look like this. Learned, I see. Roland suddenly realized that there really was a creature like Aunt Loli. At first, he thought the expensive circle was really chaotic. Come on, fill out the form. Flora snorted coldly and snapped her fingers. In an instant, a screenshot appeared in front of Roland, and a message prompt from Tailing also sounded. The new student in charge, Flora, is distributing the verification form to you. Roland sat down on the sofa in the reception room, filling out or outlining each item according to the format. Mastered spell list. Level 0, increase resistance, acid splatter, detect toxicity, detect magic, read magic, dizziness, dance light, flash, light, freeze ray, lightning shock, illusion sound, strike undead, fatigue touch, mage's hand, repair, communication, switch, transcription, secret spell imprint, magic trick, list of specially authorized, not mastered, spells. Level 1, proficient in language, skills. Craftsmanship, average, document interpretation, excellent, mystical knowledge, good, architectural and engineering knowledge, average, dungeon knowledge, average, geographic knowledge, average, historical knowledge, good, local knowledge, average, natural knowledge, good, aristocratic and royal knowledge, average, religious knowledge, average, plain knowledge, good, identification spells, excellent, and use of magical devices, excellent, specialization. Copying scroll, excellent. End of this chapter.